No problem.
Just like,
Yeah.
uh, a very good evening to everyone and warm entries to the new viewers who have just joined in. We have Bitcoin SV, the first crypto e-meet in India with BuyUcoin exchange. For newbies who don't know that key that Bitcoin, BuyUcoin and Bitcoin Association. So let me give you a brief introduction. BuyUcoin is an Indian crypto exchange which has listed over 40 cryptocurrencies uh, right now, and is also working towards a decentralized blockchain economy. And for as for Bitcoin Association, I wanted to say that it's a non-profit organization based out of Switzerland and the global industry organization which advances Bitcoin SV. It brings together essential components of the Bitcoin SV like ecosystems like startup ventures, developers, merchants, exchanges, and service providers working alongside them and representing them at a certain capacity. So I am very happy to announce that I have with me Mr. Jimmy Nguyen. He is the founding president of Bitcoin Association and is one of the top world's Bitcoin and blockchain advocates. He has been a renowned public speaker and media commentator for Bitcoin SV. And today he'll be answering a lot of questions from our investors who are interested in the adoption of BSV in the Indian market. So, very warm welcome to you, Jimmy.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and hello from the United States. I'm home in Seattle, and I want to thank BuyUcoin for listing Bitcoin SV for trading and bringing Bitcoin SV to India.
Okay. So just before we begin, so I'm going to announce that Bitcoin SV has now entered the Indian market, and you can certainly start trading the Bitcoin SV on BuyUcoin through BSV-INR and BSV-USDT pair. So let's begin, Jimmy, then. So the first question, can you share with us the history of BSV, Bitcoin SV, and what was the root cause of like the BCH versus BSV fork back in November 2018?
So that's a great question because it's a little confusing. People see Bitcoin SV as emerging into the world in November of 2018, almost 2 years ago, when there was a hard fork and chain split of the Bitcoin Cash network, BCH. For a period of time, we supported Bitcoin Cash, but there were disagreements between different protocol groups that led to the split. Our view is a little different than the market. A lot of people think BSV forked away from Bitcoin Cash. We view it a little bit differently. We view Bitcoin SV as the new ticker symbol, which represents the original Bitcoin protocol. So to explain that and what led to the disagreements, let's go back to the very beginning of Bitcoin. Right? Bitcoin was introduced to the world in 2008 through the Satoshi Nakamoto white paper, which described a system for a peer-to-peer electronic cash. What that means in our view is that Bitcoin needs to scale very big so that it can be used for instant fast transactions for very, very low transaction fees so that you and I can use it in daily life as electronic cash. And in the white paper, it described Bitcoin as a way to reinvent how internet payments could be made. So we can make internet payments much more efficiently without needing to pay credit card processing fees or PayPal or some of these other services. So that's not what happened along Bitcoin's journey, because BTC, which obviously many people know and recognize as Bitcoin, decided to keep the block size very small. And in our view, that crippled the Bitcoin network. It led to congestion, transactions got slower, and the fees to send transactions on BTC can become very high. Sometimes it's 40 cents, US cents to send a transaction. There have been periods of time where it's been almost $40 US to send a transaction on the BTC network when it has congestion. And that doesn't allow Bitcoin to act as electronic cash you use in daily life. You won't pay for coffee or your groceries with Bitcoin if it costs $4 US to send just one transaction. So that led to a lot of disagreement and fighting in the Bitcoin community for many years about whether to make the blocks bigger and therefore increase transaction capacity or keep the block small.
Yeah.
And that led to the split in 2017, before we even get to BSV, between BTC and Bitcoin Cash,
yes.
BCH, because it was a battle between what we call small blockers and big blockers, right? Do you make the blockchain big or do you keep it small capacity? Yes. So when that split happened in 2017, our organizations, I was at the time working as CEO of the N-Chain research and development business, where Craig Wright is chief scientist. We decided to support Bitcoin Cash because it was birthed to try and create bigger blocks and more capacity so that we could fulfill this cash vision of Bitcoin. So we supported Bitcoin Cash for a while, and then starting in 2018, there became disagreements with the protocol developer groups, in particular the one led by Bitcoin ABC. Oh. And without getting to all the details, I would say the disagreement came down to two main things. Bitcoin ABC did not want to scale Bitcoin Cash as much and as quickly as we did. So, for example, at the time in 2018, the Bitcoin Cash network was still at a block cap of 32 megabytes, which is a lot bigger than BTC, but nowhere near the capacity you need to challenge Visa and MasterCard payment rails. Sure. And today, we're almost 2 years since the split with BSV and BCH. They still are at 32 megabytes. They have not raised their block capacity. We want to scale much bigger to enable not just cash use among consumers, but major enterprise data use. So that was a big disagreement. And we, for example, when BSV split off, raised the block cap to 128 megabytes, and then later to 2 gigabytes, which is 2,000 megabytes. And now there is no limit on our network. It's what we call unbounded, which means it's up to market forces to decide. So that was the first area of disagreement. And the second big area of disagreement was whether or not the protocol developers should continue making changes to Satoshi's original protocol and design. Okay. Our belief is that Bitcoin, when it was originally designed by Satoshi in 2008 and 2009 and released in its initial code, had all of the protocol elements necessary to power not just the world cash system digitally, but also the enterprise blockchain that could do everything all of the other blockchains are trying to do. Ethereum, EOS, all these DeFi, tokens that you're hearing about now. And that we needed to restore the original protocol and not make any changes. Because Satoshi said this very early on in Bitcoin's life, that the core design of Bitcoin, once it was released in version 0.1, should be set in stone. And that means you should lock the protocol, because otherwise it's very difficult for wallets, exchanges like your company, businesses to continue supporting and building new things on the blockchain if the protocol is constantly changing. Yeah. So the ABC developer groups wanted to make some significant changes to the core design and protocol of Bitcoin that changed Bitcoin from its original design. For example, we were fighting at the time about transaction ordering. They wanted to change the order of how transactions got put into blocks. And we said that changes the design of Bitcoin and will have ramifications you do not realize. But it wasn't just that one change. You could tell they wanted to keep making changes. And our view is, let's restore Satoshi's protocol and freeze it, lock it, so it's stable, just like internet protocol has been stable all these years and has allowed the internet to grow with lots of applications. So those were the two big disagreements. They did not want to scale as quickly, and you can see that 2 years later, they're still at the same block size, 32 megabytes. And secondly, whether or not protocol developers should keep changing things or keep a stable protocol. And we're seeing that now with BCH appears to be headed for another chain split next month, because there's a disagreement about a proposal advanced by Bitcoin ABC over what's called IFP, an infrastructure funding proposal. Okay. They want to add a change to the code to send 8% of the block rewards to the Bitcoin ABC developer group for any miner who uses their software to fund their work. The other forces in BCH disagree with that, but it again shows disagreement because someone wants to keep changing the protocol. Yes. So that's what led to the split. We split off, even though BSV is a new ticker symbol. we view it as the Bitcoin that best represents the original starting back from Satoshi when the blockchain launched in 2009.
Yeah, surely it's like great to have the base layer fixed. Like you said,
Yes.
the Bitcoin, the base has to be built and fixed on Bitcoin, and then you can talk about scalability. If you change the base, you can't build a whole building on that, right?
Exactly. The example I argued at the time in meetings with these developer groups is, do you want to build on a solid rock
Yeah.
foundation
Yes.
or moving sand?
Yes.
Right? You don't build a house on sand. Right?
Yeah.
You build a house on a very solid foundation. And our view is the Bitcoin protocol and foundation should be stable and locked. And developers can build anything they want on top of it.
Yes.
Just like internet protocol, the TCP/IP protocol has been very stable. But people have built additional internet protocols that work on top of it, and as well as all of the applications we have today, websites, mobile apps. So we think all of the building should happen on top of the base stable protocol, not constantly change this.
Yeah, so I surely agree with you. The base should be always the same. So let's move on to the second question. So what would you say that BSV has different from the other public blockchains like BCH or Ethereum, EOS, etc.? Like what differentiates it?
Sure. Two big things differentiate Bitcoin SV. The first is our massive scaling vision. We're the only blockchain out in the marketplace which is massively scaling and doing so successfully. So, as you've probably heard, Ethereum continues to have scaling challenges, right? And it still hasn't fixed it with their attempted launch of Ethereum 2.0. Whereas we have scaled big, as I described before. We started at 128 megabyte blocks, then we went to 2 gigabyte total block size cap, and now it's unbounded. And so on our network now, the mainnet peak capacity has hit 2,800 transactions per second. That's very good. It's far more than BTC, which does 7 transactions a second at max. BCH, I believe, let's see, my latest stats have it about 60 transactions per second peak, whereas Hyperledger is about 2,700, so we're doing better capacity than Hyperledger. It's nowhere near Visa levels, because Visa can hit up to 60,000 or so transactions per second at peak. But by next year, we think we'll be able to hit 50,000 transactions per second and continue growing. So what does that mean? It means not only can we do a lot of transactions and therefore be the digital cash for the world, but the other big thing it means is that we can do them for very, very low fees. And that makes Bitcoin very usable in daily life and on the internet for online payments. Our median transaction fee is less than 1/100th of a US cent. That's 1/100th of a US cent, which means you can use Bitcoin SV to send micropayments, not 10 US dollars, but 1 penny, half a penny. And it opens up new business models, as we can talk about in our ecosystem, where businesses are using this to change how the internet works, to change how we pay for and do digital interactions. So it opens up business models of micropayments, where tiny amounts of money are sent, because it costs so little to send instantly a BSV transaction. The second other big difference is because we're scaling big, our network has greater data capacity, so that businesses and developers are thinking of creative ways to read, write, compute with data on the blockchain, adding data to our blockchain, and then allowing people to own their own consumer data, allowing, for example, businesses to stream big data onto the blockchain and use it to create data marketplaces. So it really combines what Bitcoin is, the fusion of data, bit, plus money, coin. That's what Bitcoin is. And because we're scaling big with micropayment capability and a lot more data capacity, you can put data on the blockchain and monetize it. Because there's a way to pay for it if you access or give someone the right to access the data. So that's the big difference, because we're doing all that in one chain and one coin. And now there are token solutions on Bitcoin SV, there are smart contract solutions. So the difference between our vision and BCH or Ethereum or EOS is we believe in a world of one global blockchain.
Yeah.
Just like we operate on one internet.
Yes.
Whereas right now we have 5,000 cryptocurrencies and over 100 blockchain projects. So our view is you only need one mass blockchain. You could still create different digital currencies on top of it with BSV as the base ledger. So that is the biggest difference, is the view of one global chain, like we have one internet. But to do that, you need massive scale. And with the micropayments and data capacity of our network, developers are creating some really, really exciting and creative new innovations.
So, like, the next question is about scalability, and I think you have already cleared it. So, like, what is like the current status?
I can give you a little bit more explanation on one thing about the future of scalability. So I've talked about where we are in scale now, which is by next year we think we'll be able to comfortably do 50,000 transactions per second. But the biggest thing that's coming over the next year is a project called Terranode, and it is an enterprise class software for Bitcoin SV. The client software Satoshi introduced to the world in 2008, 2009 was alpha code. If you go back and look at the description of it, it even says alpha. It really wasn't meant to survive long. So our development team at nChain has basically, they've been improving the code over this time and introducing scaling improvements to make bigger blocks and bigger transaction capacity. But they knew they had to really start from scratch. So they're creating what's called Terranode. It's an enterprise class version of the Bitcoin SV node software that one day, for example, Amazon could run, Google could run, Alibaba could run, to support our vision of terabyte-sized blocks. That's really big. That's 1 million megabyte-sized blocks. And that's not happening anytime soon. We think this is in the future. But the software needed to be improved for it. It's taking what's called a microservices architecture approach, splitting the software to different modules that are optimized for different functions. And we believe that once that is optimized, the Terranode software can support billions of transactions in one block. And over 4 million transactions per second. So that's coming in the future, but we're working towards that because we believe Bitcoin SV can be the blockchain that supports all data for the world. As I like to say, one world, one chain. So that's what's coming in the future. To date, the biggest blocks that have been mined on BSV, the largest one is 370 megabytes in size, which had about 1.3 million individual transactions just in one block. Compared to what's happening on all the other blockchains, even at that pace where we are today, we're kind of blowing all the chains out of the water when it comes to scaling. But the bigger future is Terranode. It's enterprise class software to power millions and millions of transactions a second.
At the end of the day, I think the only way we can grow the whole crypto industry is the only thing holding back the crypto industry was scalability, because people were always having issues on that, and I think you guys have already blown it out of the park in that area. So it's really great. I just want to say congratulations to you guys on this one.
Thank you. We're just getting started. Stay tuned. More is coming.
Surely. We are waiting for everything. So one major criticism that Bitcoin SV's approach is centralization. So as you know, it will get very expensive to operate a full node of Bitcoin SV, and only professional miners can maintain the full nodes and validate transactions. So would that eventually lead to fewer nodes on the network, or hence we call it centralization?
Sure, that's a good question. I get that question a lot, and to answer that question, I think we have to rethink what centralization is. People think that the more people running a instance, a copy of the Bitcoin software, means it's more decentralized. But Satoshi predicted all the way back in August of 2010, this is 10 years ago, that as Bitcoin scaled, this is one of Satoshi's online posts, as Bitcoin scales big, it would consolidate to, he wrote, smaller numbers of professional server farms. So he predicted this 10 years ago. So what's happening was predicted to happen. So let's talk about what nodes are. I think what people, when Bitcoin first started, the ordinary person like you or me could run Bitcoin at home, right, and actually compete for block rewards, right? And then professional rigs came in to the picture, right, with ASICs mining rigs and others. And that made it harder to mine at home. And even if you bought your own rigs, right, you have to join mining pools. So there's this idea that everyone needs to run their own software, their own node. But those are not really the nodes on the network that contribute to whether something's centralized or not.
Okay.
So if you look at the CoinDance chart, it tells you that there's over 10,000 public nodes on the BTC network.
Yes.
Right? But those are not, in my view, real nodes. If you go to the Bitcoin white paper in section 5, where it talks about what the steps are to run a network, it tells you what a node is. It's basically the nodes that collect transactions and create blocks. So who are those? For the mining world today, it's just the mining pool operators. So even if you have a rig at home and you are part of a mining pool, right, your mining rig does not create the block. It's only the mining pool operators' nodes. So in reality, on the BTC network, there are not 10,000 real nodes. There are about 20 to 30 at any given time that actually create blocks. And that's what a real node is. Everything else is what I would call a blockchain listener, reader, right? Wallets, exchanges. For example, your company probably runs a copy of Bitcoin node software.
Surely.
But it doesn't create blocks, right? And so when we talk about centralization, what the community should really think about is not the number of people running software so they can read the blockchain or validate their own transactions. It's what are the number of nodes that actually create blocks, the real mining nodes. And that's really only 20 to 30. And whether the block on BTC, on BSV right now, it's probably about about 15 at any time. Some come and go from the network on any given day. So from that metric, BSV is not that much more centralized than BTC. It's really not a large number of nodes. And that's what you should think about. And that's enough to have a, quote, decentralized network. And making the blocks bigger and having more data capacity does not change that. If you contribute your hash power to a pool, right, with a mining at home, you are not the one with the equipment that has to upgrade with your memory or optimize your software to create the blocks better and faster. That's the mining pool operator. It's those people who have to be in the race for better equipment and software optimization to compete in a bigger block world. So I don't think that our vision of a bigger block Bitcoin actually reduces the number of real mining nodes on the network.
So thank you really for that, like clearing that up, that the nodes don't decide the blocks. So it's
correct.
So it's
the public nodes, meaning if I download a copy of the Bitcoin software to my computer and run it on the network, it will be counted as CoinDance as a node. But I'm not really a node on the network, as described by Satoshi. I'm not making a block. I'm not writing transactions to the blockchain.
I think a lot of people have doubt regarding that, and it surely must have cleared data. It has for like a lot of people. So like as you told about Terra node and like the big data which can be used through Bitcoin SV. So can you share some more use cases that are being deployed on the Bitcoin SV blockchain right now?
Sure, there are so many. I made myself a list so I could remember some, and they're all at early stages. So I don't want your audience to think that this is all happening at the biggest scale now, because we've only restored the protocol earlier this year with our Genesis upgrade, and done the scaling work over the last year and a half and stabilized the protocol. A lot of these are in early stages, beta, test concept projects, but they're all already happening on the network. So already happening on the network are, of course, payments. There's already payment functions. There's a remittance product out of South Africa. CentB, a company in South Africa, has created, in addition to its wallet, a way to use the Bitcoin SV blockchain to send money more efficiently between South Africa and Zimbabwe, and will open up to more countries. Because I know remittance payments are very expensive between countries. So, but it can send remittance between those two countries for $1 whatever amount you want to send, which is really, really powerful because of our low transaction fees. At our CoinGeek conference in New York, an AR VR company unveiled itself. It'll be using the Bitcoin SV blockchain to provide virtual item tokens in an AR and VR experience on its what's called Omniscape platform. The company is called Transmira. And the virtual items, it's like Pokemon Go, collecting virtual items, but the items are tokens represented on the BSV blockchain. Right, that could be small amounts of Bitcoin. It could be a coupon. It could be any type of rewards point. Social media applications. There's a company called Twitch, which has created essentially Twitter on the blockchain, where you have to pay to tweet or Twitch, but people pay you back when they engage with you to create better quality content. And it's small amounts, but you can do that with micropayments. Someone's testing a voting application with the city in Australia to test the tracking of public voting in elections on the blockchain. There's a supply chain company out of Norway called Unisat, which has a supply chain management solution, which uses the Bitcoin SV blockchain to track products. Their first platform is called Seafood Chain. And they've been testing in market to test the tracing of halibut from the fish farm to the wholesaler distributor to a sushi restaurant chain. And they're going to launch a consumer mobile app. So you as a consumer at a grocery store or at a restaurant can actually scan and see the source of origin of food ingredients that you might buy. There's a esports and online game company in the US called Chronoverse, which has a crypto fights kind of Dungeons and Dragons skill fighting game, which uses Bitcoin SV now for its token. It used to be on Ethereum, but Ethereum got too expensive to send transactions, so it moved its token to BSV, and it's using the BSV ledger to record the battle moves on the blockchain so that they can create a more fair system for esports and esports betting. And then there's also online casino games on the blockchain. There's a weather application, an air quality index application out of China that records the air quality statistics of Chinese cities to the blockchain. There's a company in Australia that is recording environmental information from IoT devices on trees in the city of Cairns to be able to track carbon dioxide emissions and create almost a marketplace for carbon dioxide credits. There's a digital advertising company which is using BSV to pay you as a consumer to recommend digital ads to your friends that are paid for by advertisers. There's uptime testing. There's a developer marketplace where you can, as a developer, make small amounts of BSV if people use your APIs and they pay you in small amounts of BSV. There's a clean data company coming that is using the blockchain to record clinical research data from pharmaceutical company testing to the blockchain so that it's more fair and if it's been changed. There's a company in the US recording your personal healthcare medical data to the blockchain to create an electronic healthcare record. So as you can see, the list of what is happening in BSV is really amazing because all of these examples I just gave you show the combination of Bitcoin to act as data that is given money value.
And I can surely add to that, like it goes from the big businesses like remittances, supply chain, to the futuristic ones, the ones we are like the IoT devices you talked about on the trees. Like that's some crazy stuff. We are hoping in the future that it builds on it, so we can like improve the quality of life everywhere through that.
Of course, Bitcoin. There's still bad things and bad people in the world, but Bitcoin is designed to create a more honest system. If you read the Bitcoin white paper, it uses the word honest 15 more times, and by making transactions and data on a public ledger that everyone can see, it can really improve a lot of things. And I think the one thing I want your audience to know the most is, while I want people to, make smart trades, and first of all, I'm not here to give investment advice, right? But, people, invest in Bitcoin SV. Obviously, I want them to do well. I don't want them to not do well. But I want them to know we're here not to make anyone rich quickly. We're here to build a long-term technology platform that will grow in real value over real time. Not, sushi swap coin that, just goes up and down quickly. We attract people who are interested in building something real, and that will gain value, that will last over time.
Yeah, surely the things which we talked about, like the things which are going on Bitcoin SV, it's a sure shot that the prices would obviously increase. The projects that are behind this blockchain, so it's a no-brainer for everyone here present.
Oh, well, thank you.
Just I wanted to know that like why the enterprises, the new upcoming enterprises or startups should look for Bitcoin SV as their solution to going into public blockchains.
Yeah, so for startups, we have a lot of startup entrepreneurs moving from Ethereum and other chains to Bitcoin SV, mainly because we solved the scaling problem. Like Ethereum, with the DeFi craze that happened this year, maybe you're seeing this at your exchange. At one point, transaction fees on Ethereum, the gas fee, was about 14 US dollars about a month ago to send one transaction. So if you're a developer, a startup, and you want to create a new business product, it uses a lot of tokens, for example, or lots of transactions, and you want it to grow, it doesn't work if it costs that much to send one transaction, but it can on our network. So that's why startup developers are looking at Bitcoin SV. Also, the Bitcoin protocol, people don't realize, in the script language of Bitcoin has all of the elements necessary to do smart contracts, tokens, and all the other things that people want to do in other blockchains. For bigger enterprises, the reason we're talking to a lot of them that are looking at Bitcoin SV is the scalability. That it's hands down. We've talked to a lot of companies who have tried to explore other blockchains, and they come to us because they say, we tried to build it over there, but it's too expensive. It doesn't have the data capacity. If you're a big company, even medium-sized companies, you don't want to waste your time and money building an application that cannot grow. That if it hits capacity, CryptoKitties is a perfect example, right? When the CryptoKitties game became popular on Ethereum, it froze the network practically from one game. And so while we still have a lot of work to do on our scaling mission, we're the only blockchain that has really demonstrated the ability to scale. So that's why enterprises should look to us. The other reason is we're very business friendly. Like, I come from 21 years of a corporate law and IP and digital tech background. A lot of the people who work with us are former professionals in auditing and computer engineering and investment banking and corporate finance. We have lots of startup entrepreneurs, which is great, but we have a very business-minded approach. We also advocate for lawfulness and regulation-friendly industry. I talk to government agencies, and it's not because we love more regulation. It's because for big businesses to have the confidence to use a blockchain, they need to know that it's lawful and regulation-friendly, not a dark coin that breeds, money laundering and bad activity. And we can't stop all bad activity on a public blockchain. But as leaders of an ecosystem, we can certainly take steps to cultivate a compliant and regulation-friendly world. And that's why I think bigger businesses like talking to us.
Yeah, I can surely say that, like the scalability and the business-friendly approach that you guys have will surely like encourage a lot of startups to go for Bitcoin SV as their go-to product. As we just talked, like you said that you were at a BSV Coin Geek conference for 3 days. So can you share a little bit about us? Any updates? Any news?
Sure. It was great. And so normally we do 2 of these a year, and they are in-person events. They're with CoinGeek, which is our media and event partner. So CoinGeek runs a website, coingeek.com, which is very Bitcoin SV focused on news. And they also run events. And the CoinGeek conferences are the 2 biggest Bitcoin SV business conferences a year. Our last one in London in February had almost 1,000 in-person attendees, and then COVID-19 sort of shut down the world. So this one in New York last week had to convert from a big in-person event to our first live virtual event, where we actually, if you watched it, the production quality was amazing. Our team didn't do just a Zoom video conference. It was like a broadcast quality production shot out of 2 digital studios, one in New York where I hosted for 3 days, and one out of London. And then we had additional speakers coming in. We had over 90 speakers over 3 days, all live, nothing pre-recorded, and a lot of great business announcements happened there. So Enchain, for example, announced that it was leading a 5.4 million US dollar investment round in a company called GeoSpock out of Cambridge in the United Kingdom, which is an extreme scale data company that helps better track and analyze huge amounts of data. So they're going to be working with Enchain on blockchain projects, including for smart communities. They have a smart community project, for example, in Singapore, which records lots of data from IoT devices, as you mentioned, right? So that's a really exciting announcement. In addition, there were announcements of projects from the AR/VR company, this clean data company. There was an announcement of a new custodian service that's going to be built on BSV, so that if you custody your digital assets with this custodian, without moving the assets out of custody, you can trade them because they'll be tokenized on BSV to create more liquidity for financial assets that you normally cannot trade. There was the announcement of a company out of Austria and Europe that's in the RegTech business that will take KYC information, which I know exchanges have to worry about, as well as know your business KYB information, record the pulling of it on chain so that you can prove I actually did my KYC on a business or customer, and then move to a future where they'll tokenize the KYC information on the BSV blockchain and create a trading marketplace for it. So those were among just the many, there were a lot more announcements besides that, but it was really great, 3 days, and we had a lot of government and business leaders there. One of our keynote speakers was actually a U.S. Congressman, Darren Soto from Florida, who was co-chair of the Congressional Blockchain Caucus in the U.S. So he came to speak with us. So overall, it was great. I think it got the whole Bitcoin SV world very excited about what's happening.
Yeah, I can surely say that the news which comes out from the conference is really optimistic, and we hope that everything comes true and comes in place for Bitcoin and for the crypto world and world as a whole. We hope that we both grow together, right? So my last question,
absolutely.
So my last question for you is how do you see the importance of India and the Indian crypto market for Bitcoin SV ecosystem?
I think it's an exceptionally important market. I've had my eye on the India market for some time, and I think it's great that you are the first major exchange to list Bitcoin SV in India. I know there's been some uncertainty in India about the status of digital currency. I'm glad that's being more clarified because I think digital currency has a huge role to play. One, you have a huge development and enterprise technology community in India. So I think what we offer for Bitcoin SV is very useful for your startup entrepreneurs to build great applications on blockchain, and for your big businesses that have huge infrastructure, telecom companies, for example, manufacturing, that can really use the BSV blockchain. So I'm really excited to try and help educate the India market about the power of BSV. Also, BSV is really great for delivering on financial inclusion, right? Creating applications to give more people, especially lower income parts of a country, access to financial services. Because our transaction fee is so low, you can do services where just that most people have mobile phones these days. If you don't have a bank account, you can still transact. SetB, for example, in South Africa, has launched ability to pay for different services through their mobile wallet. People can now pay for electricity in South Africa using Bitcoin SV through the mobile wallet. Airtime to top up their mobile phone. They can pay for Netflix accounts, Uber, Google Play Store without needing a credit card or a bank account. So for people who need more access to financial services, I think that will be really great. There's another company in BSV that is developing a peer-to-peer micro-lending platform using BSV. So you can lend, for example, someone who's a street merchant a small amount of money to buy goods so they can sell, and they can pay you back in small amounts, at a time with much lower interest rate. So I think these are all the reasons that BSV would be very attractive to the Indian market. And you have such a big population between you and China. Those are two of the countries who are most interested in digital currency and blockchain technology. And honestly, I've been waiting to get into India, and I'm so excited. BuyUcoin is the one that got us there.
Yeah, surely. We are as excited as you guys to have the Bitcoin SV with us. And I surely hope that the Indian startup spaces and every new technologies that coming up in the crypto world surely look up for Bitcoin SV to grow and to build platforms and applications to for the future.
Yeah, and now that we're there, with you and your exchange, I definitely, want to start, much more proactively efforts to educate the bigger businesses
Yeah.
in India about the use of the blockchain, not just for payments. It's payments and data, and I guess that's a big message for your audience. Have a bigger vision for Bitcoin. It's not just for payments.
Yes.
It is data plus money combined into one big infrastructure for the world.
Yeah. So, as you as of now, we all say like data is money. So both have to
Yes.
work together. So for everyone to grow. So at the end, I just want to say that India market especially holds great potential and importance for the crypto economy, and I hope that the BuyUcoin and Bitcoin SV's efforts, which are focused to bring cryptocurrency to the masses of India, and especially in this post-COVID era. So we hope that
Yes.
it catches on definitely. And I want to thank Mr. Jimmy Yuan for being available and answering questions from the investors to broaden the adoption of BSV in
Sure.
India markets. Thank you so much. And I just want to say our users and BSV enthusiasts that BuyUcoin, you can now buy BSV in INR and USDT, and you can also do it through UPI, IMPS, and MobiKwik wallets, your credit cards, your debit card. You can buy with all the methods. And to the customers, you would also be delighted to know that we have introduced the first crypto based scratch cards, which is the easy back options on our website. And if you sign up, you can specially get BSV as a reward and be like start your first trade in crypto.
I see there's a question from someone in the audience named Manesh Arpra who
Yeah.
asked, how should aspiring engineers plan to go about learning BSV? If you don't mind, I'll answer it
Yeah,
quickly.
surely.
Great question, Manesh. We have launched several websites to help educate the general audience as well as developers. For general audience members out there, investors and other people, visit bitcoinsv.com. That's our main website with general information, more understandable for the everyday person about Bitcoin SV. A developer can also look at it because there's a build section there that will link you to a lot of developer resources. Otherwise, for developers and engineers, the best site to go to is bitcoinsv.io. So similar domain, but .io, that is where all of the technical infrastructure is at. And there's also other resources such as BSV Devs. There's a site that has a lot of the developer resources. And at my organization, bitcoinassociation.net, sign up to become an affiliate. Developers can become affiliates of the organization. You'll get information. We run lots of webinars. We've run 2 developer conferences online this year. We just did a BSV hackathon. So if you're an engineer and developer wanting to get your hands into Bitcoin SV, we have a lot of resources at those different websites. And we'll be launching later this year some online education platforms, one through Bitcoin Association. And we just announced this week that Saxion University, a technical university in the Netherlands, will be working with us on the first massive open online course about Bitcoin and Bitcoin SV. The first one will launch in early 2021, and it will be free for anyone around the world to participate and get certifications from Saxion University.
Yeah, surely. And for any customers who are interested in buying BSV and start trading in it, I can surely say go to the link in the description. And for further more questions, I would say like you have the Bitcoin SV handle on Twitter. You can reach out to BuyUcoin handle anytime, or you can just comment below in this video. We'll be surely happy to get back to you. So thank you, Jimmy. Thank you so much for your valuable time, and I'm glad to say that I learned so much from this interview. So many new things about Bitcoin SV, the blockchain world, the crypto world, everything. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, and hopefully I will get to come to India soon and say hi to you and so many of your other community members.
Yeah, surely. We are based out of New Delhi, and we'll be happy to host you guys Bitcoin SV anytime soon. No issues.
All right, thank you.
So Thank you, Jimmy. Have a good one. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
weekend. All right. Bye.